Today's Mr. O Math Vid is going to be about interpreting and drawing box and whisker plots. So just quick review, box and whisker plots, they use the 5-number summary, minimum, first quartile, median, third quartile, maximum, to divide the data up into 25% regions. So the 4 regions contain 25% of data. So remember that as you do these problems, that in each region it's 25%. That's why it's called a quartile, which quart, of course, being the prefix that means 1/4. So let's look at these problems. What's the highest score on the test? Well, that of course would have to be the maximum, and therefore that would be 102. What percent of the class recorded a score above a 72? Well, the 72, I see 1, 2, 3 regions, which would be 75%. What's the median score on the test? Well, that'd be the score in the middle, or the middle 50%, and that is an 88. What percent of the class scored between 88 and 96? Well, that would be 1/4, which would be 25%. And finally, do you think this test was too hard for the students? Explain why or why not. To me, looking at this, and notice that in the test scores it says as a percent, so then this is a 38%, 72%, 88, 96, so forth. I'm going to say no, I don't believe it was too hard, because when I look at this data, this 72, that's pretty decent. Honestly, most people would be okay with a 72. I'm not saying I'm great with a 72, but at the 72%, 75% of students scored at least a 72. So we're going to say they scored 72+%. Or you could also look at 50% of the students scored 88+%. So you're talking about half the students had almost A's or better. So that's why I'm going to say nope, don't think it was too hard. You just had a few students down here that didn't study, missed class, struggled, who knows. But yeah, so that one seemed fairly straightforward. And let's scroll down to the next problem. We're going to talk about the cost of CDs. They've given you the graph, you've just got to read it again. So this word upper quartile, that means the third quartile. Just so you have an idea of that. So the min, first quartile, median, third quartile looks like it is at $26. And I think that was for 12 CDs. So what's the range? So we've got to do the max minus the min. So the max is at 29. The minimum was at 7, giving us a range of $22. The median. Now notice the median, if I drop that line down, does not look like it is. It's not 20 and it's not 21. It kind of feels like to me that it's probably around $20.50. Although looking at it, it doesn't quite seem like it's halfway. It might be before halfway. Not sure. I'm not going to split hairs over that. It's justifiable to say $25 or $20.50. What cost represents the 100th percentile? The 100th percentile just means the max. So the maximum value is $29. How many CDs cost between $14.50 and $26? Well, the $14.50, if we look, is at our first quartile. There's our $14.50. And then the $26, which is at our third quartile. So being two sections between there, that should be 50% of the CDs cost between $14.50 and $2,600. And then how many CDs cost less than that? Well, here's the $14.50 again, and that was your first quartile, so that's 25% cost less than $14.50. Alright, and finally, we're going to do this problem, which is a little more involved. You're going to have to create a double bar graph, or I'm sorry, a double box and whisker plot, and then we're going to have to answer some questions about those particular things. So first things first, they want you to find the 5-number summary for each one of these two snowboard companies. And in order to do that, as I mentioned in a previous video, we're going to use the calculator, stat, edit, and I have some data in my list 1, so I want to clear that out. And right here, I'm going to do both of these at the same time. So I'm going to do the Middleton in my L1, and I'm going to do my Snowboard Central in L2. So we've got 345, 350, 356, 360, 375, and 405. So, and then arrow to the right to get to L2, and then enter the Snowboard Central. So 343, 370, 386, 392, 395, and 402. And in order to do our 5-number summary, we do stat calc, the one variable statistic. First, we're going to go for L1. And remember, we have to arrow down to the bottom of the list. So our min was 345. Our first quartile, 350. Our median, $358. Oops. Third quartile, 375, and finally our max was 405. And now we're going to do the same thing for L2. We just go back to stat, arrow to the right to calc, one var statistics. Now this time we want to change the list. We want L2, which is in blue right above 2, so we need to push second 2 to get L2, and then calculate. Of course, arrow all the way down, and there are our numbers. So min, median, max, Q1, Q3. So the minimum is 343. Q1's 370. $395, I'm sorry, $389, then $395. and 402. So now we're going to go down and we're going to draw our box plot. So scrolling down. And the way we do this, we need to have two. We're going to stack them. So on top, I'm going to put the Middleton, and on the bottom, I'm going to put Snowboard Central. So the Middleton had 345, 350, 358, 375, and 405. Again, sorry about the wavy lines. The mouse does not want to cooperate. So that would be our box and whisker, or our mutilated box and whisker for the top for Middleton. And now we're going to do the same thing for the data on Snowboard Central. So that was 343, 370, 389, 395, and 402. And as I draw these in, I don't think this is one of the questions. I could be wrong. But anytime you're drawing a graph, you ought to be thinking about certain things all the time. And specifically things like center, shape, and spread. So how spread out is the data? The shape of the data, is it skewed? Which, I mean, these are two perfect examples. The Middleton is skewed right for sure because of that stretched out tail on the right side. But then the Snowboard Central is skewed left because it's stretched out to the left. So things to always be considering as you're watching this. Okay, I just wanted to check, make sure I had all those questions on screen. So, median price of snowboard at Middleton. So Middleton, that was our $358. The lowest price that you could have bought a snowboard at Snowboard Central would have been the minimum, which would have been $343. Most expensive at Middleton would have been up there at our $405. The range of the price for Snowboard Central, so Snowboard Central would have been 402 minus 343, resulting in a price range difference of $59. And finally, what price represents the 75th percentile on Middleton? So Middleton would be the third quartile, and that is $375. Now real quick, I'm going to throw this one in. It's not on here, but I should have asked the question. Based on the graph, which of the two companies would you have bought a snowboard from? And the great thing about this one is there are several answers that could be right. I'm going to give you two right off the bat. One obvious one is you could say, hey, Snowboard Central had the cheapest snowboard, I'm buying that one. Perfectly fine. But there's also the answer of Middleton, because Middleton has a higher concentration of snowboards that are below a certain price range. So like right here, their Q3 is almost the same price as Snowboard Central's Q1. So 75% of the snowboards are in the lower half of that price range, whereas it looks like Middleton's 75% is in the upper half of the price range. So different ways of interpreting. So long as you can justify it, you can. But good luck working on the homework, and see you next time.